Hello and welcome to another Doctor's Assistant 1 video. Today I'm doing a behind the scenes so far to Man Part 5. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm just kind of happy that I've got this one off the off the agenda, as it were, or off the books, as it were. 5-part story. Yeah. I'm curious to know if part 5 and or part 1 will get quite a few views. It's just I always notice that the first two, or the first part and or last part to a story seem to always get the most views, and then the middle part always seems to be a bit of a lull. And that, I think I did well with part 5. I enjoyed doing part 5. Part 5 wasn't nowhere near as much of a slog to get through in part 4. I rewatched part 4 to be able to then film or feel comfortable filming part 5. And I think I set up in part 4 a bit that happens in part 5, which if you haven't seen part 5, well, why are you watching this video? Going about the behind the scenes sort of stuff of part 5. But basically the professor turns into one of the Weevil type creatures, and the thing is, what was I going to say? The thing is, there's a bit in part 4 where he's coughing and he's getting angry and saying that he's a man and so on and so forth, and that, and basically that was just a setup for, as I say, the part where he sort of transforms and that, and it's into a Weevil type thing. The Weevils, I was thinking about this earlier, earlier today. Kind of remind me of the new series / Torchwood, or new Who / spin-offy thing of like the Primords, and I'm curious if that's what Russell was going for, you know, with Primords being, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the sort of green werewolfy creatures in Inferno. So, you know, but yeah, I also remembered or found 2 other Weevil action figures between filming part 4 and this one, to which I was like, oh, that's where the other 2 were. Because I was originally going to use maybe 2 other Weevils in earlier parts, but the only reason why I've used them in part 5 and or the last part is because I only found them in part, between, as I say, I'd finished filming like part 4, and then I found the other 2, and as I say, I was just like, oh, okay, great, fantastic. But yeah, what else? I did some notes on what I wanted to do and that, and I was trying to make like a bit of a reference also, a little bit of an Easter egg, obviously, for those who have already seen Planet of Evil. The Tom Baker story, that one is set on Xena Minor, to which I didn't realise until after I'd sort of just randomly thought of a colony name for a sort of place. And then, as I say, I've just made a little bit of a reference there towards the end, or at the end of the Doctor not being quite sure of whether or not he's already done said adventure, or if it's in his future or in his past. But yeah, I've left that ambiguous, but also just as a bit of a reference, so you can fill in your headcanon whether or not you think this story's set before or after the events of Planet of Evil, which I often get mixed up with Face of Evil, probably because they've both got evil in the title. So yeah, I'm happy that this is the last part. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like the last few parts to this story have kind of been a bit of a slog to get through for me personally, and that basically the main concept of idea for concept, or whatever the freaking thing is, the elevator pitch basically is that Doctor Who does a take on sort of toxic masculinity and whatnot, and is what I was trying to do on this one, and that's why, you know, I called it Man, and at the beginning, you know, you've got kind of like this abusive relationship and that, and then also the fact that, like, you know, I was also going to have 2 lines that unfortunately I totally forgot to add in this part, so, you know, a bit of a Doctor's Assistant 1 exclusive if anyone in the history of ever is even remotely interested. But basically I was going to have a line where Gwen says something like, you know, like the mum, Professor John Stevenson's mum's about to like shoot maybe him, to which uh, Rachel's character could also say maybe, "Oh no, I'm just as important," or whatever, or is it because I'm a woman that you will, shoot me or something? To which then Gwen might go, "Oh, what? There's even sexism in the future," or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, just things like that that I didn't add, not because I didn't want to or whatever, just more because I totally forgot to, more than anything. Also, what was I going to say? Yeah, I was trying to make a little bit of a joke and a little bit of a goof and a gaff of of the Doctor being a woman, maybe only on the weekends, being like a bit of a riff on the fact that now obviously the Doctor is female, and that, and that, but then yeah, like just sort of have that as a bit of a joke, but also as a bit of a like, oh, it's, Time Lords are loose with the whole concept of gender and that. So I guess yeah, and then I really like the Tom Baker action figure of him being the curator, to which that's why I thought of incorporating him as the villain to the story. However, I am kind of annoyed that I accidentally kind of, when he came back as a from being a Weevil, he comes back and that, and I don't know why, but I just started talking and or doing the dialogue as he was as if he'd gone under not trauma but amnesia, and or hit his head. He had like I even said a line like, "Oh, I've got a headache" or something. To which I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like, because I wanted it to be like still a venomous sort of like he could maybe have one last trying to thrust one last dagger into the Duck's chest, as it were, before he leaves, and he's really venomously shouting like, "No, you will not take me away. This is my, my beginnings or whatever, my birth or into manhood," or something ridiculously pompous like that. But again, the Doctor kind of has foreknowledge on this guy, and he does sort of know briefly about the fact that like something happened on Xenomania awry, or something bad happened here, to which obviously he doesn't fully know. He just sort of sees it in a newspaper, something to that effect. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next part. The next part will be set as I sort of mentioned in the literally last sort of chunk slash block, as it were, of the story that I've just filmed, or part 5 of Man. It'll be set in the past, so that'll be interesting, because other than, I think the only other story that I've ever done, or figure adventure that I've kind of done, that was actually meant to be set in the past, was the Kraken, way back when. So yeah, this next story will be sort of set in the past, so that'll be a really fun sort of story to do, and that with a whole host of different characters and people and that. And also originally I was going to have some dialogue maybe about Gwen sort of mentioning about like where's the Doctor actually from and stuff like that, and yeah, I didn't, I left that on the cutting room floor, as it were. I just sort of was like, I don't know, that doesn't really add much to the story or to the adventure, as it were, and that. And then I know this is a bit further in the future and that, but when I've done the next episode and or story, so episode 3 of this series, because this is the second sort of story that I've done, when I've done that, then we'll be at the halfway point of this series, so I'll do another trailer for the second half, sort of going over obviously the next 3 sort of stories, or sort of doing a little epic, as it were, or trying to do a little epic, little trailer, cobble something together for the next 3 stories that I have in mind, and that, yeah. So yeah, I am aware that as well character options are making the action figure, but it's obviously based off a Big Finish audio, which is Dark Eyes, of course. So we are getting another Eighth Doctor variant to add to the very slim and little collection that we have now. I have this 1996 TV movie figure currently in the figure adventure, and then I have the Night of the Doctor action figure there as well. and that. Please do comment below if and when I get that figure, if you would like me to add maybe the Dark Eyes action figure to the Figure Adventures maybe. It's just, I know one of my friends, Michael, he said that he just assumed that after I'd, not this one even, after I'd got the 4th Doctor TARDIS, that I'd use that in my Figure Adventures over the more hideously bloated, in his opinion, David Tennant sort of TARDIS, to which I will still keep this one. I was maybe considering using that one. It's just a case of, to be fair, unlike him, I do have nostalgia for this box, and I do actually like it, as well as the fact that I wasn't planning on changing the box in any of the stories that I thought of recently, to which it would just be weird if I just, like, 1 minute, you know, in, say, Man Part 4, have that TARDIS, and then in Man Part 5 have that TARDIS, and don't even address it or say anything. It would be very confusing and very jarring for people watching, to which I didn't want to do that, so yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike that TARDIS by any means. I don't dislike that TARDIS either. I don't really like either one more or less. I think both have their own pros and cons, both as actual TARDIS boxes and or play sets, as it were, or whatever you want to call them, as well as actually in the concepts and actually in the TARDIS show, even as a prop. I like both of them, as well as sort of playset toy diorama-y figure thingy-mabobs words. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the results of this one. Hopefully it wrapped up fairly substantially, and hopefully people are looking forward to where the 8th Doctor and or Doctor and Gwen end up next episode. Thanks for watching, comment, rate and subscribe.